Some shop updates, because I know a lot of you like the CNC stuff, and I've been doing some, but some of the projects I've been putting on the channel, I can tell from the views. Some people are like, oh, that's neat, but they don't really care. Let's talk about the engine for a second. What's happening with the engine? I ordered a flywheel. It took some time to do some research, and what I learned is that this transmission, which according to the seller when I bought it, came off of an LT1 in a mid-90s Camaro. When mounting this transmission to a pre-1985 small block Chevy, you require a flywheel that mates up to this spline on that shaft, which I think is 26 splines, and also accounts for the two-piece rear main seal on this. And I think it has a different depth or thickness to the flywheel. So I ordered one according to the best information I could find. It's a aluminum 13.5 pound Fidanza flywheel, and I'll be getting that this coming week. So you'll see that. I also got my pulley machined. I went to the machine shop and I gave them my flush mount pulley, and I told them make this except put 2 tracks in it and make it 6.6 inches in diameter. They made that. They put 2 tracks in it, but they made it the same diameter as the old one. So they're machining a new one, and I'll get that soon. And then the next thing I need to do is take this off of the engine stand and put a cart on it and make another cart for the transmission and start putting the two together and figure out what's missing. I'm kind of doing this as I go because I saw some kits. There was a kit from Ram Clutches that looked like it's supposed to be everything for an LT1 T56 to a pre-1985 small block Chevy, but it was like $1,000, and I could not find any detail on it at all in terms of what's actually in the kit. And the flywheel I think was steel. It was like 30 pounds. So I was like, I can get this Fidanza aluminum one for like $380. And if I have some scrutiny in my shopping, I can probably get the clutch and the remaining pieces for under $1,000. So I just need to figure out, once the flywheel's on, what else bolts up. I need to understand the throwout bearing and the clutch fork and how to actuate those and whether or not it's going to be a hydraulic or a manual thing. So that's what's going on with this. That's why it's been sitting here. So with the car. I am slowly cleaning my shop. I'm getting this crap out of the way so I can think. I need to think. Because I can't think. I've got too much going on right now. Christmas coming up. I was going to try to make some Christmas gifts, and I just don't know if I have the bandwidth in the shop right now. I sold the trailer, the solar trailer, which is great. Now I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's another project that's gone, and I get the extra cash. Didn't get nearly as much cash for it as I wanted, but it did free me up to make a few expenditures like the flywheel and the pulley. The pulley's gonna cost me $200 just to machine that. There's some stuff I could do on the car right now without spending any money. It's mounting the new fuel tank, and frankly, the only thing preventing me from doing that right now is I don't feel like rolling around on the floor. I've been obsessing over lifts. I want to lift, and for a long time I was looking at the Ranger Quick Jack. They make a few different versions of that now. They make a 3,500 pound, a 5,000 pound, and a 7,000 pound. For this car, I probably need the 5,000 pound, but I would probably get the 7,000 pound because if I ever want to change the oil in my truck, for example, I would have that capability. The drawback of the Ranger Quick Jack is that while it lifts the whole car off the ground, you still have to get on a creeper and get under there. You've got a bunch of clearance now. It's like 24 inches of clearance or so. So it's not like, what I am now when I'm kind of pinned under there, but I'm still on my back. There's another product called Max Jacks. If I could do it over again, I wish I would have made these ceilings about 2 feet taller. I'd have to strategically place them. But what's cool about the Max Jacks is it's a low clearance. The total height of the thing is only like 80 inches or something. So at this point in the garage, I've got something like 100 some inches of clearance, which is just over 8 feet. It would fit just fine. And then I would be able to just drill inserts into the floor and then bolt the post to it. And if I ever need to move the posts out of the way, I could. So I could have a 2-post lift in here and get myself maybe 4 feet of clearance under the car. I mean, we could look right now and see. The car is about roughly 60 to 62 inches off the ground. 60 inches is 5 feet. So I really could only get away with lifting the car 3 feet. So a quick jack, if it's 3 feet, the quick jack would put the roof of the car right. Well, that's realistically all I can get. Maybe it's a quick jack. I mean, even if I got a Max Jacks in here, I wouldn't be able to do much else with it. I want 4 feet under the car. I can't get 4 feet under the car. So anyway, that's a completely useless waste of time for me to obsess about that because what I should be doing is working on the damn car. Anyway, I should do the gas tank. I need to buy the fuel system So one of the other things that's kind of mentally blocking me from doing the gas tank is that I don't have the EFI yet. This gas tank is supposedly a complete EFI kit from Tanks Incorporated, and it's supposed to be a retrofit for this car. It's the OEM type gas tank, and it's got a drop-in fuel pump that's inside the gas. It's submersible, which is supposed to be better. And I assume, according to everything I can find, everything I need is in that kit, but I'm just thinking that as soon as I get under there and start installing it, I'm going to need some more stuff. I've already run brake lines from front to back. I'm probably going to have to follow fuel lines along that same path. I can't use the old ones. I don't think I have fuel lines. So once I have fuel lines running, I want to figure out where I want to bring them up and then tap into the EFI. And I don't know what the EFI is going to need, the EFI, what diameter fuel line is going to need, if I'm going to need some A&M fittings. There's kind of a mental block with that because I haven't figured out that entire system yet, and I feel like I can't really start installing the tank unless I understand what the EFI needs first. That's probably not true. I could probably just look, take apart the box and just look, but mental block. Cleaning, I'm trying to clean a lot. It's kind of a mess in here. This stupid cart, I've been saying I'm going to clean for like a year. I cleaned off some of it from my son's electric motor project. I just totally cluttered up Megabench. So I'm slowly cleaning that right now, but it's just a mess. And I got all this dumb stuff, like, you know, I gotta clean up all these random fasteners and more fasteners and more fasteners and wire and this stupid gasket kit that I keep tripping over, and this whole box of parts for the car. And I've been really kind of thinking about the whole intent of Megabench and whether or not it's really meeting its purpose. I have pretty low utilization of these drawers, and then these drawers are the best drawers in the whole thing, which hold my screws and fasteners and things like that. I love that set of drawers. So I could keep those. I could consolidate some things here. The size of Megabench, while I thought would be awesome, is actually kind of a drawback because it takes up so much of the garage. I've been thinking I could actually cut this up. I know that sounds crazy, I just made it, but I could reduce the size. There'd be some drawbacks to that. You know, I like having this, but I could put that somewhere else. I like the French cleat system, but I don't need that there. I could put it on that wall. That's something I'd really like to do, is take this whole wall, take all that stuff off. I would take all that out and put in French cleats. And then with French cleats, I could have a lot more flexibility. And in fact, what I would do is get rid of those shelves too and replace them with a more movable, versatile French cleat system that might include shelves. I've been thinking, is it possible for me to put the dust collector in the attic and then hook it up to the piping system there, maybe drop it through the ceiling? And that would free up 6 square feet. I need to do something with my planer and put it somewhere else. That mortising machine never gets used. Maybe the planer and the mortising machine could be a flip-top configuration. The drill press is okay where it's at, but it really should be over with metal work. That's another thing. See that over there in the corner, my air compressor? That could go in the attic, and that would free up another 4 or 5 square feet. That cart needs to get the hell out of here. Pick up some random car parts and put them somewhere. This thing I took down and just left on the floor. It actually needs to go back up over there where that pegboard is, and the two get swapped out. My configuration here for the Shapeoko. The Shapeoko is, I love this cart, but these drawers are completely underutilized. I'm using like 2 of them, so that could be its own thing. Someday I will convert my Harbor Freight mini mill to CNC. So this would be next to that. And another wish list item for me is a 3D printer. Those 3 together would need a computer. Something else I could put up in the attic. My engine crane after I'm done using it. And that shop prep. That would free up some space. Someday I would like to have a TIG welder and maybe a plasma cutter again. I used to have all 3. But my TIG welder was a big, burly Lincoln, and I sold it because I never used it. So I've just been waiting for an excuse to have a TIG welding project, probably with either stainless or aluminum. At any rate, I need a welding cart, and I also need a welding table because I want to do more metal projects. The 3D printer eventually, and that would be consolidated to one bench. And then maybe a welding cart there with the air compressor up in the attic and out of the way. So this is my attic. My attic is full of crap. A bunch of discarded one-off projects. There's the air box for my Silverado because I put a cold air intake in. There's all the drum brakes parts and old wheels for the Impala. Some old shelves that I don't use. Roofing nails from when I built the garage. There's a vacuum pump because I thought I was going to get into vacuum bagging and doing composites. There's the hood for the Impala. Random shit like tarps and stuff that could go out. Since I haven't been able to pull my truck in here, I mean, one of the advantages of being able to do that was I could back the truck in right under this hole and just throw everything in the back of the truck that I want to take to the dump. And I could probably get a truckload of crap in here and just throw it out. For my old Volkswagen, I sold a bunch of parts, so I got some of that cleared out. But I'm working on my basement right now, so this conduit that I kept from when I wired the garage is going to come in handy because I'll be able to use some of that to wire new outlets in the basement. Here's an old welded table that I used to use for my drill press that I don't really need anymore. I could probably get rid of that. So this is interesting. That one, that cart there in the back, that stand is for my Ryobi table saw, the BT 3000 or 3100, I think. And this is the cart for my radial arm saw. I'm considering getting rid of all of that. I just built the miter saw cart that you saw a video for. That's because I'm using a 10-inch Hitachi in my basement to do the cedar trim work down there. I could get rid of both of these and consolidate some things. All this wood I just need to put there and clear it up here. And what I would consider doing is mounting the air compressor here and maybe the dust collector over there. I'd have to figure out a way to switch them remotely so that I could maybe turn them on with a switch and then of course be able to get up here occasionally to do maintenance on them. But I would get some crap out of the way. I've got some old wheels and crap I don't need. I mean, I could take a bunch of stuff to the recycling yard. But this is just a bunch of work and I'm tired of it. Another project is this. I've got it kind of temporarily rigged up, but I've got this crane here, which is great for lifting heavy stuff up here, like what I did with that hood. The problem is it's kind of cheesy right now, rigged up to an extension cord. Cable for the controls only hangs that low, so it means I have to reach up here every time I want to run it, and I'm always doing it in this really dangerous, precarious way. So I need to extend that and permanently mount that. Another thing on the car, that master cylinder is going to go and I'm going to replace it with Hydro Boost, so that needs to get out, and I need to clean up those brake lines because they are a mess from me fiddling around with them, making it all messed up. And I need to clean all this out again because now it's all covered again with dust. This fender needs to come off, and I have this piece that needs to be welded in because the rust on that is so bad. Also, another thing over here is I want a lathe. So I want a 3D printer and I want a lathe. I want to convert that to CNC. So that's about it. I got too much going on and I just need to clean. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean. One thing I love about this miter saw station is I've got it pretty flexibly designed for my needs. I've just built the miter saw cart for the basement, which you saw. And what I like about that is I can just move it around. And it's turning out to be super handy. I didn't make a stop system for that miter saw cart, and this very simple one that I've built for here is awesome. I love it. One thing I've come to learn after installing the Rage saw is that now the two are right next to each other. I actually have no way to make intermediate stops within the width of these two, and most of my cuts are probably less, 4 feet or less. So that means I'm lacking the stop system. I sort of mitigated its use by making the two side by side. So there's two ways to address that. One is put this, either make another cabinet with a fence on it and separate the two with some intermediate fence system, or create a stop system that has some reach, which wouldn't be too hard to do. But they're both a little bit silly. And I know when I did the review on this saw, I was debating about just keeping this saw. And I still could, but the challenge is that this blade, after cutting steel, it gets dull really fast. Like way faster than that. It still works really well, but when I want to make a nice metal cut, it's not going to be there for me to do that. So I don't think it's a good single purpose saw, frankly. You need to have both. So I either keep the radial arm saw and figure out a way to separate the two so I can still use my fence system to its full intent, or I'm toying around with a different design where I finally do sell this, I get rid of this, and I replace it with a 12-inch sliding compound miter saw. There's a Ryobi one on sale right now. It's $250 at Home Depot. It's only bevel in one direction, but so is this. So who cares, right? But if I were to get that, instead of having the two separated, I've been looking at a system where I would adapt a flip top here and have the Rage on one end and the Ryobi on the other, or whatever 12-inch I have on the other, and the two flip. So I could flip and I'm in metal mode, and then I could flip and I'm in wood mode. And that way I could actually squeeze these two back together and give myself another. I also have to think about my table saw cart. It's just the nature of a shop, I guess. You get experienced with the tools that you make and realize that they could be upgraded. And so while I wish every design was perfect from day one, it's not. This one has some drawbacks. What are the drawbacks of the table saw cart? Well, one you can see is what's going on here. Well, I made all my wheels on the bottom of a single piece of 3/4 inch plywood, and I made these platforms out of 2x4s for them, and I screwed them into the plywood, and then I mounted the casters underneath there. That turned out to be kind of a weak design. These casters in particular would get caught on the transition to my concrete apron outside. Since most of the time when I'm cutting, I tend to turn the saw that way to blow dust out into the alley. And when I do that, I run into that transition and it just ripped this thing off. So I've got it kind of temporarily shoved under there to offer some intermediate support. But if this wasn't here, the whole thing would sag, which causes all my drawers to bind. That's a weakness in the design that I didn't really account for. This part of the cart is also a weak point. I cut a notch here to allow for what I thought was a clever design in my flip top where my dovetail jig sits, because I envisioned some world where every drawer I make from here on out would be a dovetail drawer, which every time I do them I remember why I don't do dovetails that much, because they're a pain in the ass. So my dovetail jig doesn't get used nearly enough, at least not enough to merit its own flip top. In some of the original designs, I was actually thinking that flip top would house my planer, and then I could run my planer this direction along the length of the cart, which still could happen. But the way I built this, it's not nearly strong enough to do that. These are just bolted to here. This piece of wood that they're mounted to is just screwed into plywood, and the plywood's just pocket holed right here. It's not nearly strong enough. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to cut this whole end off. I'm going to shorten the whole cart and put new casters on it. And that will actually make this cart a little bit easier to move around and not quite so cumbersome. That box contains a Bessemeyer fence system, which, from what I understand, I could retrofit to this and basically drop the Ryobi aluminum channel rails off, retrofit it to a Bessemeyer system, and maybe be better off. That would be addressing one of the weaknesses in this table saw, which is the fence. It's been fine for most of what I want to use it for, but when I do really big rips on this, you probably saw in some of the other videos when I was making the miter saw cart, I was making those really big rips and I was running them out of the garage door into the alley, and I have to actually stop in the middle of the rip, walk around the table saw where I've got my fold out leaf on the other end of this, and pull it the rest of the way, which is ridiculous. The leaf that I made on this is nice and it's great for small things, but when I'm ripping a full sheet, it's not strong enough. It tends to bow, especially on this side. It's not well loaded enough, well balanced enough, and I don't get even cuts. I can rip a 4x8 sheet sideways, but it is super cumbersome. If I put in a Bessemeyer fence, I think this thing is like 75 inches long. It'd be almost as long as this cart, but if the saw is left where it's at, I could probably get 48 inches on the far end of the blade and be able to rip a 4x8 sheet in half and just have a little bit of overhang over here, which would be great. And I would still be able to fit in a router table at the other end and use the common Bessemeyer fence for both the table saw and the router. And then just cut this end off and keep all the drawers. And that would be awesome. And then I would get rid of that leaf too. That fold out leaf, I'd get rid of it. this goes back to some of the other things I was thinking. So when I was thinking about this potential flip top solution for the miter saw, this flip top solution could be permanently fixed here, which I haven't decided yet if it does. But if I use the cart and retrofit the cart a little bit, and I make it so I can slide it in and out of here and somehow lock in place so that the fence is always square, which that's the hard part. How would you always make the fence square if you could move it in and out? But if I could do that, I would make all this mobile. And then I would have mobile bench, mobile cart, mobile bench, cut up Megabench and make that into mobile benches. And every single one of them is the same height. Then I don't need my leaf for when I do rips. And instead of turning this thing around and shooting it towards the alley, I just hook up my dust collector a little bit better and I start ripping shits. I start ripping sheets into the garage, which is the whole purpose. And then I just have these carts out that I can roll in and they just act as in-feed and out-feed tables and any other kind of versatile work surface. That's kind of the shop tour. Everything's a mess. I got it clean. I've got a bunch of scrap wood I can sift through there. I've got these old stumps that I harvested from some trees when Dad and I were cutting wood once, and I wanted to make them into workbenches. Or seats or stools, and one of them you can see sometimes in my videos. Some random pieces of drywall I can just throw away. That is the top to the deal I got at Ace Hardware when I found this Craftsman rollaway tool chest. And I'm using that for some blade storage for my bandsaw. The bandsaw is doing all right how it is right now, but I could really optimize that a little bit better and build something a little bit more permanent around it to use those drawers. This top to the cabinet is one of the flip top types, like I got here in Megabench. I really hate the flip top. I mean, it doesn't do anything. You end up leaving it open all the time, and your tools just collect dust, and it's not really a good work surface. So in a different world, maybe I could put this one and the other one on top of these benches and use those benches a little bit more. I'd also like to have some sort of dust shroud around this. Again, that's why this sort of flip top miter saw solution is interesting, because I could incorporate a single dust hood for that. So yeah, I'm clean. Still makes me really happy to just look at this though. I'm really proud of that.